Hey everybody, Poppin' Fresh here, back with, gotta get that started. Back with the Week 3 Team Builder for the VBL-S Season 3, and this week it's against my good buddy Casey of the California Colossals. This is the day after we did the mod multi-battle, and we made such a great team. It's gonna suck, but I gotta pull it all out because I gotta beat him. Let's go. So, this week, let me take my headphones off. This week, taking a look at his team, let's talk about who I think I'm probably facing. Well, I guess start with a team overview, right? So, probably facing, sorry, my words are leaving me. So he has Rabombi, Cinderace, Indeedy, Milotic, Mr. Rhyme, Tangrowth, Guzzlord, Palisand, Slowbro, Escavalier, and Munchlax. So one of the neat things about Casey's team is that it really kind of runs the whole gamut of speed tiers, right? You have Rabombi, who's super fast, faster than anything I have. And then at the bottom you have Munchlax and Escavalier, who are super slow and slower than anything I have. So when I was first looking at his team, I didn't really think it had obvious synergies, but the more I think about it, the more I realize that it's a lot of mons that are good by themselves and form good combos, so it's actually pretty threatening. It's a very good team. So who do I think I'm probably facing? I think I'm probably going to be facing Cinderace. This was Casey's first pick. It's a super strong Pokemon, as we've seen for the first two seasons of the VBL-S. Done very well each time. I don't remember whose team it was on the second season, but I'm pretty sure it probably did well. And I remember Steve and Time Guy both had it in season 1 and took it really, really far. Did Cinderace get picked last season? Now that I think of it, I can't remember. Anyways, I'm sure if it had been picked, if it did get picked, I'm sure it would have been or was great. It's just such a strong Pokemon. It's so versatile, and I know Casey was really planning his draft around it, and he was able to get it. So I figure if you plan to draft around an S tier and you get it, you're going to want to use that S tier as much as you possibly can. So I don't see any game where Cinderace doesn't come. Next, I think Indeedy will be coming. It has great spread moves. It's a powerful threat. It's nice in that it offsets Cinderace, which is a typically physical threat, with a very powerful special threat. Hold on just a minute. Pause this real quick. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, work stuff. So, like I said, Indeedy is a very powerful special attacker, and it sets up the Psychic Terrain, which a lot of his team wants to play in. So, even though I'll be bringing my own Psychic Terrain, I imagine he brings his. And one kind of thing that's really neat against my team in particular is that with one move, his Indeedy can kind of shut off a lot of my stuff, right? A lot of my team has Trick Room, it has Expanding Force stuff, Protect, anything like that. If his Indeedy runs those moves and Imprison, he can just completely turn off my Pokemon. He can cancel my Indeedy, he can shut down my Oranguru, or at least he thinks he'd be able to. And it's just very, very versatile. Next is Milotic, which is just a general great Pokemon and a huge pain in the ass against my team, honestly. It's so good, and Milotic is particularly well situated against me. I don't have any water resists, I think, besides Wishy-Washy, which is kind of a problem. And my team relies a lot on, stat drops for offensive speed control and for defensive stuff, right? I have Icy Wind from Persian, String Shot from Slurpuff, Snarl from Persian, and anytime I try to do that, it's just going to make my life worse against Milotic. Last week, when I was playing Cannar and his Bisharp, kind of just pretended that it didn't have Defiant and wanted to see if it worked out, and it didn't. It absolutely demolished me, so I can't do that again. So I think Casey knows that Milotic is a good Pokemon. It's a good Pokemon in particular against me, so I'd imagine it'll show up. And lastly, the only other mon that I really am pretty much sure that he'd be bringing is Escavalier. It's the best Trick Room threat possibly in the game, maybe besides Stack Attacka. It's super, super good. And it matches up well against me again. A lot of my mons are weak to Bug. I don't have a single pure Fire type or any Fire type Pokemon on my team. Anything that's going to be using a Fire type move is going to be relying on the coverage move. So given that, I think Escavalier matches up very well against me. It's, like I said, it's slower than everything. It's stronger than almost everything. It's a very good mon, and I think in particular he'd bring it because season 1 I played him, I think, the last week of the season. I think I played him the last week of both seasons, actually. But he brought his Escavalier, and I was up 4-1, my entire squad versus his Escavalier. and it still was able to turn it around and take me out. It wiped the floor with the rest of my team because the only thing I could do with the fire move was hit it with Rhydon's Fire Punch, and that's just not enough damage against an Escavalier who's boosting his physical defense and able to go first. It's just a nightmare of a Pokemon to fight. So, not looking forward to seeing it again this week, probably. As for things that are likely but somewhat less likely to come, I think Rabombi is a good option. It's fast, it's supportive. I looked it up. This is my second take. And last time I said, I don't know if it gets String Shot, but I looked it up. It doesn't get String Shot, which is very, very nice because that would make things a lot harder. But it's just a fast, supportive option. It's very, very versatile. It helps him. It helps protect him from status moves. And it can't be fake outed. Granted, it has Psychic Terrain up, so it'll probably be okay. But if the Psychic Terrain goes down, then who knows? It could be vulnerable. Tangrowth could come. It's a great redirector with Sleep. It's actually one of the more versatile Pokemon when you think about it. It has the great options from Rage Powder, Sleep Powder, and it also can go physical or special in terms of offense, and it packs a punch, man, so it's definitely not something to ignore. So I definitely could see Tangrowth coming. Guzzlord could show up. It has a pretty good matchup against my team. I have a lot of Psychic types, and my only Fairy type is it has a pretty poor matchup this week, so I'm not bringing it. And it's also the only one on his team that gets Wide Guard, which is also, again, a move that's pretty good against me, given that I have spread moves from Expanding Force, Dazzling Gleam possibly, and that's one of the things. Since Guzzlord is immune to Expanding Force, it can relatively safely go for the Wide Guard to protect its teammate, knowing that even if it predicts wrong or something, I have a bunch of Psychic types in my team. I can't really do much to hurt it, so it's kind of a no downside thing if it has the Wide Guard. So I got to be very wary of that because it could definitely put the hurt on me. Palisand, it's his only real circuitry check on his team, but notice that I said check and not counter. So we'll be talking about that later. But it is a very good circuitry check. It outslows it in Trick Room no matter what, and it can deal a ton of damage. So very scary mon there. And last, Slowbro could be coming. I think it's his best Trick Room setter, and it loves to play in the Psychic Terrain. And honestly, if this entire set, all games are played, I would be surprised if the Psychic Terrain isn't up for every single turn. Honestly, we both have it. We both have the both Indeedys, and we have lots of mon that want to be in Psychic Terrain. So there's really no downside in us Steel Rollering or like Max Electricking. So it's good in Trick Room. It loves to be in Psychic Terrain. It's pretty strong too, so I'd imagine that comes. Overall things to note, I think his team is, in terms of speed control, it really only has Trick Room or Airstream from Cinderace going for it. It doesn't have a Tailwind setter. The Icy Winders are relatively... when are you going to bring Munchlax and you click Icy Wind on that, right? It just kind of shows that he's pretty reliant on Trick Room, so I have to be able to be ready to combat that. And again, it's way better than I gave it credit for originally. I was kind of shocked at how scary this is and how well he's done in his first couple games. Casey's a good player, but I just didn't expect him to be this good. So, that's the team. Looking at general things, Trick Room, 3 setters, no Tailwind, only one mediocrely sped Icy Winder. I don't think he brings screens because Mr. Rhyme could delete them for himself. Wide Guard on SCAV, Rage Powders, only a good amount of ally switchers, but... Oh, and one other thing here to note is that he has 3 mons with Taunt. But when you look at it, I really don't think it's pretty likely that, honestly, any of them bring Taunt this week. Escavalier is never going to be running Taunt. Anything on my team that would want to be taunted, he can just kill it in one hit with Max Bug regardless. I don't know if Mr. Rhyme shows up because it wants to do fake out stuff and it's in Psychic Terrain. It could show up in Expanding Force. That's always true. That's always an option, but not counting on it. In Cinderace, if it shows up using Taunt, then I pretty much know right off the bat it's a support Cinderace with coaching. But he doesn't have many physical threats other than Escavalier and Cinderace itself, and I guess Guzzlord, so I don't see support Cinderace coming this week. He doesn't make much sense to me. So that is that. Let me do something real quick. Okay, so my squad for this week, we've got a couple new faces here. We have Alolan Persian, Circuitry, Oranguru, Indeedy, all classic hits from weeks 1 and 2. But then we have these 2 other guys up here, Regirock and Noir, the 2 new members of my team. Between last week and this, I was thinking about it, and I really don't like Cobalion, man. I don't think it looks cool. I don't think it's fun to use. I've used it on the ladder in the past, and I was looking around in Tier 1 to see what else was available, and I saw Regirock, and my eyes just lit up. I love all the Regis. I think they're so cool. They're so interesting. And I grew up with Ruby and Sapphire, so that's probably why I'm into it. Just nostalgia, but it was so cool going around the Hoenn region and seeing the little Braille things. And I had the guidebook, so me and my cousin, we were laying out on the floor going through they had like the Braille translator into English letters, and then we were trying to go through the game and write it down, and it was so much fun. So I always have a special place in my heart for the Regis, and seeing that they actually have some viability in VGC is pretty cool. So I jumped on that, I picked up Regirock, and I wanted something else to better support it, and I figured that if I picked up Regirock and left everything else the same, I'd only have one Trick Room setter, and all three of my Trick Room mons, Regirock, Marowak, and Wishiwashi, would all be weak to grass. 2 of them would be weak to water, and that just doesn't really mesh well, I don't think. So I went ahead and I traded out Marowak for Noir, who provides me another Trick Room setter, another my first Ghost type. And earlier in the season, I was basing my draft not focusing too heavily on the types and just working on Pokemon that can do a lot of different things. And honestly, I still think that's the case. Regirock really only does one thing, but it does it well. Same as Cobalion, which is a little more flexible. It can be slightly supportive, but Noir definitely makes up for the number of options I lost switching from Cobalion to Regirock. I definitely gained more switching from Marowak to Noir. So I think on the whole, it still meshes with the plan that I was going into the season with, and I'm super excited to see how they work in these next games remaining in the season. So, up first, this team this week kind of revolves around Oranguru, actually. I really only have one game plan in which I bring it, but I think it'll set the tone and set the pace for the games this week, and let's talk about it. So, Oranguru. This is a Choice Scarf Oranguru with Symbiosis, max speed investment with a timid nature, with Bulldoze, Yawn, Instruct, and Trick. So, why do I have a Choice Scarf on a base 60 Pokemon and have it timid? I'll answer that after this drink. So, Oranguru has 3 kind of weird abilities that work perfectly for it. It has Inner Focus, so it can't be fake outed and it can set up Trick Room safely. It has Telepathy, so that it can use Instruct on its teammates to have them spam spread moves. And it has Symbiosis, which will allow it to be a very kind, nice orangutan and graciously give his item away to his teammates if they happen to lose theirs. So, with the Choice Scarf, I can make any Pokemon on my team 50% faster, assuming they lose their item. That can be knockoff, fling, or if they use their item. So, with this set, I hit 184 speed, which is a pretty crucial number in the grand scheme of things for my team. My Persian's max speed, if it's timid, maxes out at 183. So, on other opponents who have mons faster than that, a lot of the times they'll speed creep and hit 184. Or if my Persian is faster than the rest of their team, they might need to invest less. So essentially, I think that the fastest anything on Casey's team is going to be is 184, and that's assuming he thinks I'll be bringing max speed Persian, which I'm hoping that he's thinking that I'm thinking that he'll bring his Pokemon speed down, because I'll need to invest Persian at speed Indeedy, which, spoilers, is what I did. So hopefully he's reading into my brain, who's reading into his, who's reading back into mine, and if he brings anything on his team that's faster than 184, it's pretty much unnecessary speed creep. And if he's bringing anything less, then that's okay, because then I'll outspeed them. But if it really comes down to it and he brings his mons exactly at 184, I can still speed tie them, which is a 50-50 chance, and I've played games with worse odds, so that's what I'm going with. So the plan with Oranguru here is to lead off with Oranguru and Regirock. I can go for a super fast Bulldoze, which will then drop both my opponent's stats, because his team doesn't have any flying types, so everything will get hit by it and always have their speed dropped. So I'll reduce their speed by 1. I'll trigger Regirock's weakness policy, boosting Regirock's speed by 50%, which is essentially giving Regirock a 2.25 boost to its speed and triggering its weakness policy. So I'll have a very fast, very nasty, very pissed off Rock staring down at his team. So Yawn, Trick, and Instructor are just there to be annoying if things don't go my way. And Instructor's there to tell Regirock to keep dishing out the damage. So then looking at Regirock, we have Weakness Policy Regirock with Clear Body, as it will probably always have, with 252 attack. But the thing is here, it's Adamant Regirock. Typically, Regirock, you would imagine, would be running Brave Nature, trying to go as slow as it can in Trick Room. But given the fact that his team can always outslow me in Trick Room, pretty much no matter what, I might as well try to go a little bit faster. So with 100 speed, and then with the Choice Scarf, and assuming his team has the -1, my Regirock is essentially at 2.25 times speed. So it gives it an effective speed of about, I think it's a 185, which, like I said earlier, if he has his Mon speed crept to outpace Persian, which maxes at 183 by 1 point, Regirock will outspeed them by 1 point at 185 and be able to do tons and tons of damage. And his only Pokemon that can possibly go that fast are Ribombee and Cinderace, both of whom are weak to rock moves, assuming Cinderace hasn't switched his type. So, like I said here earlier, it's essentially, it's going to be really fast if I can get the bulldoze off first, which I think I'll likely be able to. And even if not, even if I have to take a hit, Regirock's super bulky. A Mon with a base 80 HP, 200 defense, and 100 special defense that can get boosted in the sand, it's not really going anywhere. And the moves I chose for it are Rock Slide, Fire Punch, Drain Punch, and Fling. Rock Slide for stab, ridiculous amounts of spread move damage, and when it Dynamaxes, it can do a lot of damage. Fire Punch for Escavalier, Drain Punch for longevity, and Fling. Well, let's talk about the calcs. So, if you look at the numbers, I ran them. A Regirock Rock Slide with a 20 HP, which is enough HP for the Cinderace to hit that 184 benchmark with the rest dumped in attack. Even if it Dynamaxes, it's still a guaranteed 2-hit KO with Rock Slide. And don't even get me started if I max Rockfall, it's just gone if I do that. A +2 Max Flare can always OHKO a max HP, max defense, Dynamax Escavalier, which is crazy. Max Rockfall can always get a 2-hit KO on Milotic, even if it's 252 HP, 4 defense, and Dynamax, which is important because I'll be able to, this is assuming that the Bulldoze has happened, that I'm faster than it, I'll be able to hit it and set up the sand, and we'll see where that comes into play later. And lastly, my Max Darkness is into Palisand, and that's really just because of the fact that Palisand can resist everything else that I do. It's his only rock resist, and it's a pretty good one at that. But given the fact that I have Fling, which is a 100 base power Max Darkness, I still get a guaranteed OHKO if it's 252 HP, 0 defense, and it's not Dynamax, which is pretty crazy, honestly. And then when it comes to actually surviving hits, let's take a look at this. It's, again, kind of crazy. So a +2, because from the Bulldoze drop on Milotic, we'll give it a +2 special attack. If it's max special attack, modest Milotic, max Geyser into my Dynamax Regirock in Sand, it still is only a 2-hit KO. It maxes out at 92.5%, which is enough to live even after considering I've damaged Regirock with Bulldoze, assuming there's no crits involved. Which is just, it's just astounding to me, the fact that I can live that and then always 2-hit KO it back with the Max Rock Ball. I also easily survive a 252 attack Life Orb Cinderace Max Knuckle. It's just a guaranteed 2-hit KO even before I Dynamax, and if I do decide to get big, Regirock's not going anywhere. And again, another crazy calc is just the fact that I can easily live a Escavalier Max Steel Spike with Adamant or Brave, whatever, max attack investment. I don't even have to Dynamax to live that. If I do Dynamax it, it's a 3-hit KO. If I don't, it's a 2-hit KO. That's so crazy to me. I think that's so cool, and I'm super excited to use this Mon. I think it's going to really, really pay dividends over the course of the season because it can do it. It has numbers like this. What do you do when a Mon just won't die and it kills everything in 2 hits? It's super bulky, and it just gets better and better for me. So, say I don't want to go fast. Say he brings his fast Mons and something happens and they do outspeed a rank. Well, I can go slow. So I have my Dust Noir with a Colbur Berry, Frisk, and 252 HP, 92 attack, and 164 defense with a relaxed nature boosting his defense, and 0 speed just to make it as slow as possible. It doesn't really outslow anything on his team if he's going min speed, but it's still the slowest thing on my team, and I need it to be slower than Regirock. So we've got on an Earthquake, Trick Room, Will-O-Wisp, and Poltergeist. This green right here is wrong. That is from something else. But the important thing here is that I can always live a 2 max attack Adamant +2 Guzzlord Max Darkness if he attacks into me. because he'd probably try to go for that as opposed to Max Wormwind, which actually will kill me. But you would always go for the Max Darkness first, and I always guaranteed live it, and then I can set up Trick Room, I can set up Will-O-Wisp. And originally I had just invested 252 HP max attack Adamant into this Dust Noir, and I ran the numbers, and if you look at it, if I can still, I wasn't getting Okos on anything with Poltergeist, and I can invest this much in defense and live a hit from Guzzlord and still get 2 AKOs, so why not? So that's how I ended up on this. Next we have Indeedy. Just standard stuff. Follow Me, Helping Hand, Expanding Force, Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam is there for Guzzlord. I might switch that to Draining Kiss in case it uses Wide Guard, because Dazzling Gleam also gets blocked by Wide Guard. It's faster than a modest male Indeedy, and it's also faster than a timid Milotic, which is pretty nice. Again, that Dazzling Gleam has a good chance to 2-hit KO. Draining Kiss is typically a 3-hit KO, I believe. Can 2-hit KO, but it's a lot. It's a roll for sure. And I didn't do any defensive calcs that I put in this presentation, but also I ran the numbers a little bit ago. If I survive a hit from Pollen Puff from the bug, Rabambi, if I survive a hit, that means... So Rabambi can only outspeed this, or... Anyways, I think that... never mind. I think that calc was wrong. So I don't need defensive calc because of a focus sash, so who cares? Next, we have Circuitry, who is pretty much just my dedicated Milotic answer. I have Room Service, and that's kind of a strange option, but seeing that Trick Room is pretty likely to go up, this ensures that I always outspeed Milotic in Trick Room, and I outspeed most of them outside of it. I don't remember what the number I hit with this is, but this is enough. So it's Milotic's minimum speed times 1.5 minus 1, so that I always underspeed it in Trick Room. And most Milotic don't run max speed, so I outspeed most of them. I'm going to be going first when it comes to this Milotic. That's the plan. That's why this guy's on the team. And if he doesn't do that, then I've done something horribly wrong. Putting the rest into just special attack, because this thing has 173 special attack. Might as well give it as much as it can. And it really does pay off. With the 2 water types on his team, I can pretty much just nuke them. Assuming they both have maximum HP and either pretty much 0 or Force Bedef doesn't make too big of a difference. It's either a 12% chance to Oko Milotic and a 100% chance to Oko Slowbro. And I also chose to put Grass Knot on this guy, which really isn't typically seen in formats with Dynamax, given that weight moves don't work on a Dynamax target. But I really don't expect him to be Dynamaxing Palisand. And even if he does, I still have other ways to get around it. Regirock can help out with that. But even if he doesn't Dynamax Palisand, and he puts 252 HP and a plus Spadef Nature, I get an Oko with Grass Knot, which is something that only Grass Knot can do. It hits 120 base power against that big pile of sand, whereas Energy Ball only hits 80, which makes it's a huge difference, and that allows me to pick up the Oko. And all these numbers just get better after I get a single kill with Circuitry, because this is like the embodiment of snowballing. Honestly, Circuitry, Cephalon, Nagandel, all these Ultra Beasts are just busted, dude. Beast Boost is such a good ability, and even on a mon like Circuitry where it has to get a special attack boost, that's okay. That's what I wanted. That's what I would have wanted anyways. It's okay. So it's very powerful, and also it's surprisingly it's just bulky enough to live like 1 or 2 important hits. So a Max Geyser from a Milotic that doesn't have any competitive boosts is never going to Oko me, and a Slow Bro Expanding Force is also never going to Oko me. And those are the 2 targets that I really want to annihilate with this thing, and given those numbers, I'm pretty guaranteed to destroy them. So makes me feel safer about those, because Milotic is honestly probably the thing I'm most worried about on his team. And last but not least, we have a Alolan Persian. And when you think of Alolan Persian, you think of, oh, this is a great support mon, it's really annoying, it has Fake Out, Snarl, Icy Wind, and it's going to chip me away, it's going to Parting Shot out. And that's kind of all the moves that this Persian has. It has Snarl, it has Icy Wind, it has Parting Shot, but it has Switcheroo instead of Fake Out. And if you look at the set, it's kind of weird. It's a Choice Specs Technician Persian with all of its... it has just enough speed to outspeed Timid and Indeedy Male, and the rest into a special attack. And there's a lot of orange on this page. This thing does a stupid amount of damage. It's crazy. So this is just all a list of 2-hit KOs or OHKOs that it gets. It always 2-hit KOs Tangrowth if it's max HP, Force F. It has a 40, or I guess not always at 93. It has a 43% chance to OHKO Indeedy. It has a guaranteed 3-hit KO on this weird Guzzlord set, which probably won't show up, but it's there. It has a guaranteed 2-hit KO on Slowbro. It has a guaranteed 2-hit KO on Cinderace, assuming it's not Dynamax and it hasn't changed type. And it gets the guaranteed 2-hit KO on Palossand, even if it's 244 HP with 84 plus Spadef, which is crazy. And assuming that I pair this with Indeedy, which is a pretty likely lead for me, to just start dealing off, because you wouldn't expect Persian to be my damage dealer, so I can lead that off and get a lot of surprise factor. And if I pair it with Indeedy with the Sash is always going to live. It's just going to soak up the first 2 attacks from my opponent and then put me in a pretty good spot whenever it dies. But what gets around redirection? Spread moves, you say. So what spread moves is Persian likely to take? It's likely to take a Dazzling Gleam from a... Oh, this was the calc. This was the calc from earlier. Ribombee has to be max... Oh, no, it wasn't. What am I thinking about, man? But Ribombee... I think it's... But I usually live a Ribombee Dazzling Gleam, and I always live a +1 modest max special attack Milotic Muddy Water, which is that I would Snarl on it, its attack would go down by 1, go back up by 2, and it'd be a +1. But that's okay, because I still live the hit, and then I can get it with the next one. So I'm really excited to see how this weird offensive Persian works out. I'm looking forward to it. I really like my team for this week, and I'm pretty excited to see how it goes. So general game plans, I didn't have as much thought process as I did for that first week, but in general, I'm going to go with the Regirock Oranguru stuff game 1, Persian Indeedy game 2, and if I think Trick Room will work, I'll bring Noir and Rock in the back. And if he doesn't bring Milotic, Circuitry does not come. Circuitry is only here to be a Milotic answer. Everything else I can deal with some other way, and I just need to think about that and get that into my brain. So that's the team for this week. Very excited to see how it goes. I believe we're playing on Friday, which is tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see what he brings, and I hope that Regirock can really go off this week and prove himself to be a valuable new addition to the team. So that is it for this. I will see you guys in the battle. Peace.